Hello, my name is Kaylee Paggio with the Office of the Washington State Auditor's Office. The purpose of this recorded training is to provide an overview of how to navigate the annual filing system for local governments who report on the GAAP basis of accounting. This training will focus on how to utilize the filing system and the various features to import your annual report components, so users should have some knowledge of the overall annual report requirements prior to watching this training. To access the annual filing system in your web browser, navigate to the SAO homepage, www.sao.wa.gov, and click Client Login in the top right corner of the page as indicated by the orange arrow. As a local government, you are required to log in through SAW, which stands for Secure Access Washington. Once you click Login with SAW, you will be routed to the login screen. You will be automatically redirected to the SAW webpage to input your user credentials and follow the steps for multi-factor authentication. If you experience trouble logging in, we recommend first clicking Forgot Password or Forgot Username to confirm you have the correct credentials. If that does not resolve the issue, you can utilize the Get Help feature, which connects you with an automated chat feature to identify the possible causes of your login issues. Just a reminder that this help option is only for logging in help and will not connect you to SAO. If you are filing for the first time and do not have a SAW account set up yet, click Sign Up to create your account. Once you have successfully logged in, you'll be automatically redirected back to our SAO system and land on the Welcome to Online Services page. From here, hover your mouse over the Annual Report Filing tab and click Annual Reports, which will take you to the Annual Report homepage. Here is what the annual report homepage looks like, so you know you've made it to the right place. Each user will only see the annual reports for local governments their account is associated with. Each square or box represents a dashboard for each fiscal year's annual report, and we will be taking a closer look at what is included in the dashboard. If you discover that corrections are needed in a prior year report, the report will need to be unlocked, which opens the report for edits. If the unlock icon is blue, that indicates you can unlock the report yourself and make those necessary corrections. Once you are finished, please resubmit the report again, but your original submission date will be kept. If the unlock icon is gray, that indicates an audit has already been completed for that year, and it will not let you open the report for edits. If this is the case, please contact your audit team to coordinate any needed corrections, and then we are able to unlock it from our side. If you just want to view the report without making edits, click anywhere else in the dashboard other than the unlock icon, and that will open the report in a view-only mode. We have just a few more features to show you before moving on. Each dashboard will include the government's basis of accounting, dates the report was created and submitted, and who it was submitted by. And then over on the other side, this will show you the number of errors in your report. So this will tell you how many required errors and how many warning errors your report has. And then this is one of my favorite features, the task tracker, which resembles a gas gauge. This displays the number of tasks completed out of the total number of tasks required to complete the report. This will update as you file the report and is always displayed on each step, so you don't have to return to the home page each time you want to check the status. Now, to get started on your annual report, click Create Annual Report in the top right corner of the page. Then a pop-up window will open and your government name will automatically populate. However, if your account is associated with multiple governments, choose the one you're filing for in the drop-down for the government field. The year will automatically default to 2024, then click Create New Annual Report, which will create your report and automatically take you to the first step. Before we get too far, let's go over some important navigation tips. Once your report is created, you'll notice this navigation bar. Each module represents a category of the annual report, and there are sections or steps within each module where you will complete the components of the report. There are also some menu options always displayed in the navigation bar. As I mentioned before, the task tracker is always displayed here and updates automatically as you complete tasks. There are also download and help buttons that we'll discuss over the next few slides. First, let's take a closer look at the download button. This is where you can download a component of the report, or there is an option to download the report in its entirety into one PDF. This is all live data, so what that means is you can download any of these, including the download all, at any point during the filing process. Next, let's look at the help button and the various ways you can receive help during the filing process. The chat support is not located in this help button, but it does direct you where to find the chat support function, which we'll talk about on the next slide. Then there is a link to our SAO help desk, which is where we recommend asking those more technical accounting and reporting questions. Lastly, if you need assistance and prefer email communication, this will be your go-to spot. So under Contact Us, you can type in your question or request for assistance and click Send Email. It will be sent to our filing support inbox, and a filing specialist will respond within 24 business hours. And the response will be sent to the email address of the person's account that submitted the question. For example, if Jane Doe from Sample County submitted a question, the email response will go to Jane Doe's email address that is associated with the account she used to log in to the filing system. It will also tell us what government and fiscal year that the question is about. This is a great feature that allows you to email questions or request for assistance without even having to leave the filing system. I am really excited to share the news that we have a new and improved chat support service that can be found in the bottom right corner of the page, and this is available throughout the entire filing system. If you are a previous filer, you may have been familiar with the old live chat feature that was used as an instant messaging service during peak filing season in April and May. This new chat support brings several new features to better assist local governments during the filing process. When opening the chat icon, you'll be greeted by our new virtual assistant and menu options for commonly requested resources such as reporting templates, error guides, training, etc. These menu options will take you to the applicable SAO webpage to access the resource or guidance. If you are not able to find what you need, continue through other options to request to talk to a live filing specialist. It will require you to input some details like your name, government name, and then what your question is. Then you'll be connected to one of our filing specialists. The best part of this new chat feature is that local governments will be able to receive some level of assistance even after SAO business hours, since the virtual chat assistant will be there 24/7 and can direct you to commonly asked questions, links, etc. Now it's time to navigate through the different modules. The first module is titled Government Information. On the left of the screen, you'll see what fiscal year you're reporting for. Then below is a question asking if the government is reporting activity for the fiscal year. The answer is always defaulted as yes because it's uncommon for a government to have zero activity, but it does happen. You'll see a little blue information icon that provides the complete definition of what no activity means from an SAO reporting perspective. Then on the right side of the screen, you'll see your government's information, such as official government name, billing address, the audit liaison, and the basis of accounting. If any of that information is incorrect, click the blue button that says Request for Updates to Government Information, and a pop-up window will open. Once the pop-up window displays, just type in what needs to be updated and click Send Email. This will automatically go to the SAO technicians who are responsible for maintaining this database. Just like the help email, you don't even have to leave the filing system. The next module is Revenues and Expenditures, where the Schedule 01 is completed. There are two methods of importing this data. You can choose to upload a completed Schedule 01 template, or you can manually input the data by adding each line item individually. For Schedule 01, it is recommended to upload a completed template. Click Upload Schedule to open the pop-up window, and then click Select Schedule 01 file to find and upload the Schedule 01 that is saved to your computer. This is assuming you have already completed the Schedule 01. If that is not the case, we also provide links to the BAR's Reporting Templates page, where you can find the Schedule 01 template for your government type and basis of accounting. There are also links to the Schedule 01 instructions in the BAR's manual. When uploading the completed Schedule 01 template, it is very important that it is in the correct format. When you navigate to the BAR's Reporting Templates page, all templates are pre-formatted for easy upload. So the intent is for you to only input data where applicable and not alter any of the basic formatting. That means no additional headers, subtotals, etc. This applies to all SAO templates. This is an example of the basic format of the Schedule 01. As you can see, it is very basic and used only to import the data into the filing system. Columns A through E must be formatted as text and do not delete or add any columns. Column F must be formatted as number, and then you can delete any rows that do not apply or enter 0 in the amount field. If you do choose to add the Schedule 01 data manually, you can do so by clicking Add Line Item and complete each required field. You can type in the BAR's account and it'll filter through the drop-down menu. Once all fields are completed, click Add Line Item at the bottom of the pop-up window. You will need to do this for each line item, which is why we do recommend using the template for better efficiency. Once the Schedule 01 data is imported, there are several features all within the Schedule 01 step to help analyze the data, triage errors, etc. These two icons identified by the green arrow are the download and filter options for the Schedule 01 data that you imported. The download button allows you to export the Schedule 01 as a PDF or Excel. These two options will export it in a professional format, different than the template version. If you input the data manually, it is important to export a copy to keep for your records. You also have the option to export the 01 in the prescribed template format. This can be helpful if you uploaded a template, but maybe you did a lot of corrections manually in the filing system. Then you would want to export a version, an updated version for your records. The filter button allows you to filter the Schedule 01 right here in the filing system. You can filter by BAR's account, object code, or fund number. This is really helpful for governments who have large Schedule 01s, and as you triage errors, it can be helpful to filter for specific items that you're looking for. If you do a lot of corrections directly in the filing system, like I said, just make sure to export an updated version for your internal records. In this example, let's say we wanted to filter out for Fund 107. So we type in 107 into the field for fund number. Then the filter results will display in the data table as shown here. And as you can see, this only filters out the line items within fund number 107. So that is how this filter function operates. Now let's move our attention to how to understand and triage errors that you may encounter for the Schedule 01. All Schedule 01 errors will be categorized in these three gray headers: line item errors, general errors, and variance checks. Each header also has an information icon that you can hover your mouse over for guidance on what each category of errors is for. In each information icon, you will also find a link to the BARS and Annual Report Filing FAQs page, where we have a resource called Error Guide, which will be very helpful if you are having difficulties resolving the errors on your own. Let's look at the first header, line item errors. This will display all required and warning errors that are associated with specific line items within the Schedule 01. There are toggle buttons available to filter each error, or you can filter for all required errors or all warning errors, and those results will be displayed in the Schedule 01 data table. To help visualize how the toggle buttons work, in this example, I have clicked the toggle button on to view all required errors. As you can see in the Schedule 01 data table, I now only see the line items with required errors. Within the data table, if you click the error icons on each line item, the names of the errors will be displayed below, which is helpful if one line item has multiple errors. When finished reviewing the results, just click the toggle button again to turn it off, which will then display all Schedule 01 data again. The second header, General Errors, will display errors that affect the Schedule 01 as a whole and are not associated with specific line items. Since these errors are not associated with specific line items, there are no toggle buttons here. An example of a general error is when a fund number has multiple fund names. The filing system will indicate which fund number has the errors, and you can use the filter button towards the top to filter for that specific fund number. Then review each line item within that fund to make sure that the fund name is consistently the same for each fund number. The third and last header, variance checks, will display reports used to identify variances in the Schedule 01 data. If there are variances greater than $1,000, the fund number and variance amount will be displayed in a table as shown on your screen. In this example, we are looking at the variance check that compares the current year beginning balances to the prior year ending balances for all reported funds. Any variances greater than $1,000 will result in a warning error. To see the complete comparison report, click the Fund Balance Beginning Check link, which will open the report in a pop-up window. It will include all comparison data, even for funds that do not have a variance. And then this variance check report identifies funds reported on the Schedule 01 that do not balance within $1,000. It is required that each fund balances within $1,000 in order to submit the report. Similar to the beginning balance check, if there are variances greater than $1,000, the fund number and variance amount will be displayed in a table as shown on your screen. Again, to see the complete variance report, click the Fund Balance Ending Check link, which will open the report in a pop-up window. It will include all funds, even those that do not have a variance. It will display the totals for beginning balance, revenues, expenditures, and ending balance, and then the variance amount. You should review this information to identify possible errors that may be causing the variance. The last and final variance check is related to the balance sheet items reported on your Schedule 01. This means there's a balancing error with the ending fund balance or net position and the 800 BARS codes, which are used to report those balance sheet items. This variance check is based on the calculation of current assets equals current liabilities plus fund balance / net position. You should review the balance sheet equation check, just like the other variance reports, to identify where the variance might be coming from. The last thing I want to mention regarding Schedule 01 errors is this little summary below the data table, which shows the total number of line items, total warning errors, and total required errors. There is also a new feature that allows you to export all Schedule O1 errors into one Excel file that you can review and triage outside of the filing system. For cities, towns, and counties, you will see an additional step within the Revenues and Expenditures module for the Schedule O1 summary. This is for informational purposes only, and variances here should be reviewed, but there are no validation checks to prevent submission of the report. There is an additional step within the Revenues and Expenditures module that is only applicable if you are reporting enterprise funds on the Schedule O1. This step lists BARS codes reported in those enterprise funds that are not defined as operating or non-operating in the BARS manual. For those codes, you are required to identify what amounts are considered operating and or non-operating based on your financial statements. The sum of the two fields must equal the total in the amount column. The amount in the amounts column is directly pulled from the Schedule O1. Now let's move on to the next module, which is for liabilities. The first step in this module is the Schedule O9 instructions. Every local government is required to navigate to this step and select yes or no when asked if you have liabilities to report for the fiscal year. If no is selected, no additional questions are required and no additional steps will populate. So you would just continue on to the next module. If yes is pre-selected, this indicates the government has reported liabilities in the prior year report that had remaining ending balances, and or the government is required to report its net pension liabilities. The filing system will not allow you to select no in this case. If you need guidance on reporting pension liabilities, we do include direct links to those instructions within the BARS manual. If yes is pre-selected or selected by you, an additional question will generate a requirement right below, and an additional step will populate within the liabilities module where you will complete the Schedule O9. Before we move on to complete the Schedule O9, let's look at this new question that is required if yes is selected for reporting liabilities. This questions if the government has debt that has continuing compliance requirements that include audited financial statements. You must select yes or no, but remember, this question is only applicable if you say yes to reporting liabilities. If you select no, then you would just continue on with your report. If you select yes, it is required to choose from the drop-down the deadline for this requirement. If the deadline isn't available, you can select Other and manually type in the month and date. We have now made it to the Schedule O9 step. Just like Schedule O1, there are two methods for importing this data. You can choose to upload a completed template or manually add the data. When you first get to the Schedule O9 step, this pop-up window will automatically open for you to select how you want to import the data. If you only have a few line items of data, it may be easier to add the line items manually. But if you prefer to use the template, we do provide a link to the templates page here. But assuming you have already done that, click Select Schedule O9 file to find and choose the correct file to upload. If you choose to add the data manually, select the applicable option and a pop-up window will open as shown on your screen, and then you would complete each required field. Select the correct ID number from the drop-down menu, or you can type it in and then it will filter out for those digits. These ID numbers are prescribed in the Schedule O9 instructions within the BARS manual, if you need to reference those. Once all fields are completed, click Add Line Item at the bottom of the pop-up window. You will need to do this for each line item, but one reason this method can still be more efficient than the template is you don't have to worry about format, but also the maturity date is not required for certain liabilities, and the system will indicate when it's required by the red asterisk. The ending balance is also automatically calculated based on what you input for beginning balance, additions, and reductions. However, please make sure that it does match to your internal records. Once the data is imported, it's time to evaluate any errors that you may receive. The errors are categorized the same way as the Schedule 01. As you can see, there are gray headers for the three categories of errors. There aren't many line items errors for the Schedule 09, but they could happen if you used an incorrect ID number when you uploaded your completed template. So let's take a little closer look at the general errors. If you are a previous filer, these warning errors under general errors might not look familiar because these are new for reporting fiscal year 2024. These warning errors are related to variances identified in the variance check reports directly below. The reason why they are now warning errors is because there are limited reasons when a variance here would be acceptable. This is meant to get your attention to review these variance check reports to confirm that the data reported is accurate. There are certain liability ID numbers that are excluded from some of the variance check reports, and those are explained in the information icon next to the variance check header. You can view each variance check report by clicking the report name link, and it'll open the report in a pop-up window. Let's look at the debt principal check report to show what these look like. This one compares the reductions reported on Schedule 09 to the debt principal payments reported on Schedule 01 using object code 70. Then it will display the variance at the bottom. In this case, you'll want to review this report to evaluate if it was an error on the Schedule 09 or Schedule 01. Now let's move on to the next module, which is for reporting activity related to state and federal awards. The first step is the awards instruction page, where you're required to select yes or no on both questions. These questions are asking if the government has state and or federal award expenditures to report for the fiscal year. Just a reminder that these are used to report the expenditures of state and federal awards that occurred during the fiscal year. We are first looking at the Schedule 15. Just like the 09, you have two methods for importing the Schedule 15 data. You can choose to upload a completed template or manually add the data. We have tried to make things more consistent throughout the filing system to help with the user experience. If you opt to add the data manually, this pop-up window will open. The Schedule 15 is a pretty straightforward schedule with only 4 fields to fill out. So oftentimes adding the data manually is the more efficient method, but of course it's up to the preparer and what works best for them. Now, if you are manually adding the data, in the grantor field, it is required to report the 7-digit bars code associated with the state agency that the award came from. But when adding the data manually, if you don't know the bars code, you can actually start typing in the agency name and it'll filter for it in the drop-down list. This differs from the template because the template you will need to know that 7-digit bars code and input it into column A on the template. Once the Schedule 15 data is imported, it'll be displayed in a data table, which again, very similar to how the Schedule 01 and 09 look. For the Schedule 15, there are no variance checks, and the only potential error that you may receive is uploading a template in the wrong format or using an incorrect bars code. Now we are still in the awards module, but now we're moving on to the Schedule 16 step, also referred to as the SEFA, which stands for Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. Again, there are 2 methods for importing this data. You can choose to upload a completed template or manually add the data. For this schedule, adding the data manually or uploading a template is about the same amount of work, so there really isn't one way that is more efficient. If you choose to add the data manually, this pop-up window will open for you to complete all the required fields. And just like the other schedules, you will need to do this for each line item. One really nice thing about the Schedule 16 is the federal agency and federal program name. These will auto-populate based on the ALN selected from the drop-down menu, or you can manually type it in. This function applies to uploading the template as well. So when filling out the template, you're actually able to leave those fields blank for the agency and program names. And once you uploaded your completed template, those names will auto-populate based on the ALN. Now, one word of caution is if you are reporting an ALN that is either unknown or no longer active, it will result in a warning error, and you will need to manually type in the federal agency and federal program name. Once the data has been imported, it'll populate in the data table like shown, and again, very similar to the other schedules. There are a few possible line item errors that you may receive, but you can utilize the information icon for guidance and a link to the error guide if needed. There is a secondary required component to the Schedule 16, which is the CIFA notes. These are notes specifically to go with the Schedule 16 data, and these can be attached on this step as a Word, Excel, or PDF file. There isn't a standard template to download for this component, but you can find the template in the Schedule 16 instructions in the BARS manual, and you would copy those into a Word file to complete and attach here. We are now to the additional schedules module, and here is where it can vary depending on what government type you're filing for. The additional schedules instruction step will only be included for cities, towns, and counties because they are required to answer yes or no if the Schedule 17 applies. Every GAAP government is required to attach their financial reporting package that includes financial statements, notes, RSI, etc. This can be attached as a single file here or multiple files. I'm going to move a little quicker through the next couple of slides because they only apply to a small number of governments that may be watching this recording. This step, again, only applies to counties that need to complete a Schedule 17. There are two methods of importing this data. You can upload a completed template or manually add the data. And if you do choose to add the data manually, you will need to fill out each required field. There is a part 2 for Schedule 17, and again, this still is just for counties. If part 2 applies, you'll check the box as shown on your screen and complete the required fields. These fields will populate right below the check box for part 2, so it is all done right in the filing system. Now we are still talking about Schedule 17, but now we're looking at what it looks like for cities and towns. As you can see, for cities and towns, there is no template option, so it must be completed directly in the filing system on this step. Now we are still in the additional schedules module, and there is a step for Schedule 20 that only applies to rural counties. This schedule is prescribed by state law and has specific criteria for what counties it applies to. Since we know which counties it does apply to, it will automatically be included as a required step for those counties. There is only an option to upload the completed template since there are fields in the template that we require you to select from the drop-down list. Then you're required to input the amount of unspent proceeds from previous periods. There is an information icon as well for additional guidance on what is included in the unspent proceeds. The step for Schedule 21 is a requirement for all local governments to complete. So it will be included in everyone's annual report within the additional schedules module. It is required to answer all questions on this step. for how your government handles risk management. If your government does not self-insure for any of the risks included in these questions, you'll see this red message at the bottom stating the schedule is not applicable, and then you can continue on with your report. If your government does self-insure for any of these risks, you'll be required to attach the completed Schedule 21 form. We provide a link to the templates page for you to access that template, and then it is just attached here as either a Word document or PDF. The other attachments module is truly only there if you need it. Nothing is required here and is really a placeholder if a government needs or wants to attach something that wasn't asked for already in a previous module. You can skip this module entirely if it is not needed. Once you get to the Submit Report module, there is a final validation check that will display any outstanding components that need to be completed. You can click Fix Errors on the right and it'll take you to that module and applicable step. Once everything is complete and ready to go, you'll see the top image where you'll click the Sign Annual Report button to generate your electronic signature. This is just your name and email address based on the account used to log in. After you sign the report, you'll see your name and email address and a button that says Submit Annual Report, as shown in the bottom image. It's very important to remember to click the Submit button because sometimes people will only click the Sign Report button but not officially submit it. Once you submit the report, you should see this, which is the confirmation it was submitted successfully. At this time, you should also receive an email notification confirming the submission of your report. If you don't see this step or don't receive the email, please confirm you clicked the Submit button by reopening your report from the Annual Report homepage. Then for cities, towns, and counties, you will see one additional module in your report for the Road Street Report. This report is prescribed and required by the Washington State Department of Transportation, and we are only the collectors of the data on behalf of WashDOT. The reason this module is after the Submit Report module is because it's not part of our SAO annual report requirements that is due within 150 days after fiscal year end. You are now able to come back and complete this module without unlocking your report. It is still generated based on the Schedule 01 data, but if edits aren't needed to the 01 or any other component, then there is no need to unlock the report. I will provide a very brief overview of some of these steps. So we are right now in the revenues step. So the amount you input here cannot exceed the amount in the Schedule 01 column, which automatically pulls from the Schedule 01. Within the revenues column, you will input the amount of revenue that is dedicated to the road street function of your government. Then at the end is the Road Street Report Summary step, where you can view and export your completed Road Street Report. Now, I highly recommend doing this and saving a copy for your records. This is very important because if you unlock your report, let's say 6 months later for audit corrections to your Schedule 01, it will overwrite the Road Street Report data since it is live data and it is generated based on your Schedule 01. Now we have completed the overview of how to navigate the filing system and how to use some of those helpful resources throughout the system. Before this training comes to an end, I want to quickly point out where you could find additional resources to help you through the filing process. On the SAO homepage, navigate to the Bars and Annual Filing tab and click Bars and Annual Report Filing FAQs. There is a lot of great information on this page, but I want to specifically highlight these two resources, the Handbook and Error Guide. These resources are extremely helpful to have open as you complete your report. The Handbook is a written guide of everything that we talked about in this training, including screenshots of how to navigate the filing system. but it also includes a summary of each component and what needs to be included in those. Then the error guide, this will help you better understand what each error means, and it will also provide guidance on how to resolve those errors, including links to applicable BARS manual sections. Now, we can't have an annual filing training without a little reminder of the deadline. The fiscal year 2024 reports for calendar year-end governments are due by Friday, May 30th. We encourage local governments to start their reports early to allow for adequate time to ask questions if needed. This concludes our training, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch, and hopefully you found value in it. Up on your screen is contact information for how to reach us. There are several ways to get help directly in the filing system, but you can always email us directly at lgcsfeedback@sao.wa.gov. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.